really love that song. I got so mesmerized. I don't know where you went with it, but I went back to like childhood, and I just was captivated by it all and transported. And I liked that the reindeer can really fly, and I thought, why not? It's all in our reality as we create it. And, we let our logical mind sometimes stop the magic in our lives. So the invitation today is to celebrate the light, and to celebrate the light within you. And that light is the divine consciousness where all things are possible. And so the invitation is in the realization of that all things are possible, that you let go of any limitations that you imagine. Just like you imagine reindeers cannot fly. Let go of that limitation and say, why not? You just haven't seen it yet. And that's the same thing with limitations. You put limitations on yourselves from the past. You don't let that newness, that creative moment arise. So the invitation is give yourself the gift in Christmas time of recognizing your connection with the divine where all things are possible. And know that all you do is you dream of it, you focus on it, and you become a reality. What I like about this, working on this talk, and I say working on because it's always working. When I say working, I don't mean working like labor. I mean working like, yeast works in bread. It gives rise to things. Yes. And so what happens is I start working on this and I start writing it. Like this time I started writing on Monday. But it's working and churning and saying, oh, ha-ha, there's another new one. And don't you want to say that? Don't you want to do this? And then it all boils down to is, you only get 20 minutes. So what I really want to talk about is it's about really celebrating the light within us. And it starts with happiness. I talked a little bit about that last week. Happiness is such a joy, and it's an inside job. Nobody else can make you happy. Different things may trigger things that bring happiness and joy to you. You are the one that choose to let it all in. You're the one that decides to choose to be happy. And the Buddha said, thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. I love that so much I want to read it again. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. What I know is the opposite is true. Happiness increases when shared. If you walk into the room and you're happy and you share that, pretty soon it's contagious and the next person picks it up and they start letting go of those things which turn a smile upside down. So we just remember those things and imagine surrendering to those things which make you happy. Sometime when we're unhappy, and I've talked to different people when I've been in certain counseling sessions, and they'll say, well, this is my thought, and I know that this is my feeling, and and I can't do anything about it. But actually, you can. You are at free choice at any moment. This is the first second of the rest of your life. You can change your thought. And so the encouragement here is bring in that happiness thought. And what it may take is that you may have to go back into some point, not this year, but maybe even some other point, which you are ecstatically happy and joyous. And when you give thanks for that moment and celebrate that moment, you celebrate in the light and the happiness and the joy. And you can bring it into the current experience. It's been said that happy people are self-centered. I laughed too. But it happened to take me back to my Catholic days when, it was all about certain things were not allowed because they were looked upon and judged as of not being good. But if you think about it, happy people are not the self-centered people. It's the unhappy people who are really the self-centered. Those are the people that want you to join in their misery and support them in their unhappiness and their pity party. That is one party I'm not going to this year. Don't invite me, because I'm not coming. I'm saying no. No, no, no. Because this is the time to remember the celebration of the light within us and all that we have. At the same time, since we're in this moment of celebration and parties, too much of a good thing sometimes is too much. And we have to remember that too. And so then think about yourself. Why are you doing whatever you're doing that's bringing you pleasure? And is that long-lasting pleasure, or is it just momentary pleasure? And if you have to choose between one and the other, what is your choice going to be? Are you taking instant gratification, or are you taking that which is the longer lasting? And so it's all about becoming aware of that divine expression within you. And I read about in the Joyous Living Journal about clear as glass, and I thought, wow, looking through there's a thing about looking through the glass clearly or sharply. But John in the Bible in 12:45 says, "He that seeth me seeth him that sent me." He that seeth me sees he that sent me. That is about being as clear as you can get. That's about seeing clearly. And I don't know what that means to you, but it reminds me that when we understand Jesus as a great way shower, who had such a faith of his connection with the divine, that when we saw him, we did not see him as an exception, but we saw through him, knowing that with that same faith, we see that who sent him. And we recognize our connection. So that's what I like about this time of year. Even though this time of the year, if you look back in history, there's a good chance Jesus was probably, if he lived, and we're assuming he did, he was probably born in April. He wasn't born at Christmas time, but we celebrate this time, and that's okay because it celebrates the solstice and all of these things. And it's about a celebration of the coming of the light. The coming of the light. And that's what we're celebrating today, is the coming of the light within us. That celebration that says, yes, we are connected. I wanted to just share, this is a book that I'm using in this course next January, The Essential Ernest Holmes. And part of my spiritual practice sometime includes, as I'm sitting down, is I may just pick up and open up one of the books I have, and I counted them. I have too many books on my coffee table. Probably I have 8 on my coffee table, and they're in 2 different piles so they don't fall over. And this one was on there, and I picked it up, and I opened it up, and I thought, oh my gosh, how perfect. So I wanted to share some of this. This is Ernest Holmes, who died in, I think, 1960, which is over 50 years ago, and the writing to me is real and alive today. So if you can bear with me, I want to share these words. He says, Christ is the embodiment of divine sonship, which has come with varying degrees of power to all people in all ages and to every person in some degree. Christ is a universal principle. We do believe that in the unique personage of Jesus, this Christ was more fully orbed than anyone of whom we have record. We do believe that in the person of Jesus, more of God was manifest. We also believe that Christ comes alike to each and all. Christ comes alike to each and all. There is no one particular man predestined to become the Christ. We must understand that Christ is not a person, but a principle. It was impossible for Jesus not to have become the Christ. As the human gave way to the divine, as the man gave way to God, As the flesh gave way to spirit, as the will of division gave way to the will of unity, Jesus, the man, became a living embodiment of the Christ. The Christ as a Christ principle is about Christ consciousness. It's about the divine light in each one of us. So if we can look upon Jesus from this viewpoint, we shall be able to study his life as a living example. What is more inspiring than to contemplate the consciousness of a man who has the faith to stand in front of a paralyzed man and tell him to get up and walk, and to know very well that he is going to get up and walk? Or to stand in front of the tomb of a dead man and tell him to come forth? Such an example as this is worth something. But if the whole performance were enacted in the mind of a man entirely unique and different from us, then it would mean no more than to study the biography of hundreds of other men. Jesus was either the great exception or the great example. If he were the great exception, there is little we can do other than admire the spiritual altitude from which he spoke. If he were the great example, we should follow his teachings and seek to make it practical in our everyday living. He chose to think of himself as a great example, saying that what he did, we too can do if we follow the same rules, if we believe in God and have faith. We shall not understand his teachings unless we keep in mind that he was placing himself in relationship towards God that all men should assume. He was demonstrating to those of his day and to those of our day that there is a spiritual power that we may use. In no way did he intimidate that God gave him a power that is withheld from others. He said, "What I do shall you do also, and greater things than these shall you do." If that's not an invitation to stop playing small and take your light, take that bushel off your light and let it shine, for you are that celebration of light. He said, "What I do, these shall you do also, and greater things than these shall you do." Isn't that great? Isn't that a great example? So why not? Why not? I am the light of the world. Jesus was not referring to his human personality, but to the principle inherent in generic man. They who follow the inner principle shall have the light of life, for this principle is life. That man was just so far ahead of his time for me. I just always get excited when I read this. I have to tell you, I enjoy this more than the Science of Mind text, which sometimes just bogs me down a little bit. I have to fight through it and reread it and reread it and reread it. But there are real nuggets in so many of these writings that just speak to me about the essence of who I truly am, so that I remember I am that divine light. And I can use all of that. And what I can use, I know that all of you can use. For I know that there is this one life. It is God's life. And it's our life, your life, my life. We are the divine actors in this play called life. John Lennon said, "The more I see, the less I know for sure." And I love that, because those of us who recently have been talking about the Gnosticism, it's about knowing without knowing why, without having to understand the reason. It's when we let go of our logic. It's when we don't think that, oh wow, reindeers can't fly. We let go of that logic because the logic holds us down. There are certain things that we just know. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of review of history to know that before 1492, people thought that you sailed off of the edge of a cliff. That the water somehow was a waterfall out there. That wasn't so long ago, was it?
No.
It isn't so long ago but that people thought it was impossible to fly. If man was meant to fly, God would have given them wings. I had a history teacher tell me that once. And airplanes had already been flying.
Yeah.
So, who just thought about the moon? Who thought about that space docking ships and all of that? I mean, so what I'm saying is, Don't think of limitations when you think about the celebration of the light that's within you. Now it's your gift. So rather than just opening up a gift underneath the tree, open up the gift of your heart. Open up that gift that you know that you are a powerful, creative person. You are the spiritual person having this human experience, and the gift of life is yours. And how it plays out is all up to you. It's the gift of love. Leo Leo anyway said. Leo B, it shall be affectionately known. Love is always bestowed as a gift, freely, willingly, and without expectation. We don't love to be loved, we love to love. What love we've given, we shall have forever. What love we fail to give will be lost for all eternity. I was reminded of that earlier this week, and I was thinking about love and giving love out. And I had read this, and so it was percolating in my mind. And I thought, isn't that true? When you give love unconditionally without any expectation of a payback, it is gold. It is pure joy. It's the kind of love that does last forever. Because there's no life or expectation to it whatsoever. It is just divine. And so, if we let the love of the divine spirit flow within us, and we open up to that gift, and we know that there is only love and perfection for us in this divine, then we can look beyond our own material world and look beyond all of that and know that connection that we have. Rumi says, "Love said to me, there is nothing that is not me. Be silent." That reminds me that in the New Testament it talks about, be still and let me reveal me. So I think sometime in the busyness of our lives around the holidays right now, we get so busy, we forget that. And so if we can just take a moment from time to time and take that moment to be still in the busyness of our lives, let the divine reveal itself within you. So be silent and let it shine within you, for you are this magical gift. There's nobody but you that is this way. They're talking that you can't take heaven by storm, because when you really do, all you're doing is putting up a lot of resistance, and you're thinking about forcing your way, and really what we know is to be in the flow of life. There is no resistance. So when you're in the flow of a current, you flow down in the way of the current. Now, yes, there are rocks once in a while, and those are the obstacles and the challenges we face in life. And so they're there, and you just bounce away from them. Bounce. You don't have to become attached to the rock. You don't have to become attached to the obstacle. That's not your gift. That's not the gift of life. That's not the gift that you're given with this realization of who you truly are. I wanted to read one thing in closing that they said in here underneath this, beyond sense and reason, that I thought was so great that I wanted to capture the exact words. You didn't want the mystical experience, you wanted the miracle of your choosing. Do you get what that means? Sometimes we get so hung up in having it our way that we don't let the divine play into the highest good for us. So it says, you didn't want the mystical experience, you wanted the miracle of your choosing. Yet how you now see your world will have been altered because you have developed an awareness of the presence everywhere you look, and nothing seems overwhelming any longer. Thank you.